season, keep it pushing. But I know I get you have to answer those questions. My teammates know what it is. We've been locked in the whole season. We've enjoyed our break. Had a great practice today. Looking forward to this road trip.
I don't do social media, and so you hear about some things secondhand, but I don't really live in that world or comment on social media, Twitter, any of that, and so don't pay much attention at all.
But Katie, what about the burner? The burner accounts. Did you have the little button switching back and forth?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Why?
Because I wanted to be stealth. I didn't want nobody to know that was me.
The Houston Rockets just did the unthinkable. In a move that has sent shockwaves through the entire NBA, the franchise has waived Kevin Durant, one of the greatest scorers in basketball history, effective immediately. The reason? Those burner account messages, the ones where he trashed his own teammates, the ones he refused to deny. But this isn't just about screenshots. This is about trust destroyed, a locker room shattered, and an owner sending a message that no player, not even a future Hall of Famer, is bigger than the team. This is the inside story of the most stunning roster move in NBA.
That way, and not be able to talk to that person directly is the thing that's the issue here. Because when you have a problem on real good teams, and you are supposedly one of the leaders, somebody that's looked up to, obviously, which he has been throughout the league, he could say these things to this person directly. So that's the only thing about this story that doesn't make sense on, I guess, on the surface for me. Because he has to cash that.
Michael, after the game, he pulled me aside. I don't think I've ever told anybody this. He met me in between the locker rooms, and he said, Irvin, you have to remember now, you're not with Kareem, you're not with James Worthy, all the guys you used to play with Showtime.
The trouble began during All-Star Weekend 2026, when the NBA's biggest names were supposed to be celebrating the game. Instead, a social media detective unearthed an X account with the handle @GetHigher77. The account, quickly set to private, featured a header photo of an owl, a popular GIF that Durant had used on his verified account for years. What the account contained was devastating. Screenshots flooded social media, showing alleged direct messages from Durant tearing into his own Houston Rockets teammates with language that crossed every imaginable line. The most damning messages targeted 21-year-old Jabari Smith Jr., the promising young forward who was supposed to be part of Houston's future core. The account allegedly read, I can't trust Jabari to make a fucking shot or get a stop. He's low-key retarded. Alperen Sengun, the Turkish star who had emerged as a franchise cornerstone, wasn't spared either. The messages described Sengun as someone who can't shoot or defend, a brutal assessment of a player the Rockets were building around. But the venom didn't stop with current teammates. The account allegedly went after former colleagues too. Devin Booker was compared to a dictator who would take all the credit for wins. Kyrie Irving was accused of acting as if he were owed something during their time together in Brooklyn. Even Ben Simmons, Durant's former teammate, was mentioned with a bizarre nostalgia. I swear I miss Ben Simmons, least that would give me the ball. For a player who had already admitted to using burner accounts back in 2017,
as far as handling the PR fallout of it all, right? The reality of it is with, where there's smoke, there's probably some fire. And what I ultimately landed on is, and again, we'll never know for absolute certain, but what I think is probably the most likely scenario here is that the burner is his, the burner is real. The group chats are real. And some of the...
Any questions? Kevin, there was allegations over the All-Star break that you used a burner account to disparage current and former teammates. The handle for the burner was @GetHigher77.
The Rockets returned from All-Star Weekend to an environment none of them had ever experienced. The allegations weren't about a trade demand or a coaching dispute. This was personal. This was about trust, the invisible currency that makes a team function. Alperen Sengun, the young Turkish star who would become a cornerstone of Houston's resurgence, was asked directly by reporters about Durant's post-game phone habits. His response was brief, but the weight behind it was undeniable. I don't talk about locker room stuff, Sengun said, a forced laugh escaping at the end. That laugh spoke volumes. It was the sound of a player who had seen something, who knew something, but wasn't about to blow up his team publicly. Behind closed doors, sources described the atmosphere as frosty. Young players who had looked up to Durant as a veteran leader now questioned every interaction. How could they trust a teammate who allegedly mocked their game in private group chats? Jabari Smith Jr., the direct target of the most vicious messages, reportedly kept to himself during the first practices back. No confrontation, no public statement, just a cold, professional distance that felt worse than any argument. Teammates noticed he stopped looking Durant's way during film sessions. The silent treatment was louder than any scream. Veterans around the league watched with a mix of horror and fascination. Ben Simmons, on his podcast, framed the stakes perfectly. I don't know if we've ever been in a situation like this, Simmons observed. A social media scandal of revealed tweets/text of somebody disparaging people on his team that he then has to go play with tomorrow night? I think we've made new ground on this. The ground was indeed new. The NBA had seen feuds, fights, and fractured relationships, but it had never seen a superstar forced to share a court with teammates he allegedly trashed in a secret online account, with the receipts public for everyone to see. The Rockets' front office watched the situation deteriorate with growing alarm. This wasn't just about chemistry. This was about the long-term viability of their entire rebuilding project. They had traded for Durant.
There's allegations over the All-Star that you used a burner account to disparage current and former teammates. The handle for the burner was @GetHigher77. Is that your account? Did you send the messages?
I know you got to ask these questions, but I'm not here to get into Twitter nonsense. I'm just here to focus on the season, keep it pushing. But I know I get you got to answer those questions.
All right, so Durant says the Rockets are locked in and he doesn't want to get into all this. So, Shump, is it time to just...
We came out, I'm guarding Steph. I think they put up like 50 in the first quarter. Maybe it was 45, but it felt like a 50 piece, right? He's running everywhere.
For days, Kevin Durant said nothing. His verified account remained inactive. His representatives issued no statements. The speculation grew louder with every passing hour. Then, on a Wednesday afternoon following practice, Durant walked to the podium and faced the music. What happened next would seal his fate. I know you've got to ask these questions, but I'm not here to get into Twitter nonsense, Durant told reporters, his voice flat and dismissive. I'm just here to focus on the season, keep it pushing, but I get why you have to ask those questions. When pressed about whether he had discussed the matter with his teammates, Durant offered a response that felt more like a brush-off than a reconciliation. My teammates know what it is. We've been locked in the whole season. We enjoyed our break. We had a great practice today, and we look forward to the road trip. The room fell silent. Reporters exchanged glances. Durant had just been handed a golden opportunity to apologize, to own his mistakes, to begin the long process of repairing trust. Instead, he dismissed the entire controversy as Twitter nonsense, a phrase that would haunt him for weeks. He didn't deny the account was his. He didn't confirm it either. He simply refused to engage, leaving his teammates to wonder, if it wasn't him, why not just say so? And if it was him, why not apologize? The contrast with his 2017 burner account admission was stark. Back then, he had acknowledged the practice openly, even explaining his reasoning. In a 2019 interview, he had said, I wanted a place where I could talk to my friends without anybody butting in on my conversations or mixing my words or taking everything out of context. But this time, there was no explanation, no accountability, just deflection. Social media erupted. Fans and analysts alike dissected his every word. Kevin, get off Twitter, get off your burner, stop arguing, stop being ignorant and play basketball, bro, prominent streamer Flight Reacts posted in a video. Deactivate socials and lock in for the rest of the season. Another user wrote, gets paid $90 million to play basketball, spends free time arguing with strangers on burner accounts. This is peak professional athlete behavior. The criticism was brutal.
That way and not be able to talk to that person directly is the thing that's the issue here. Because when you have a problem on real good teams and you are supposedly one of the leaders, somebody that's looked up to, obviously, which he has been throughout the league, he could say these things to this person directly. So that's the only thing about this story that doesn't make sense on, I guess, on the surface for me.
Speaking of James Johnson, probably the most feared man in the NBA.
Yeah, I seen him knock out 3 dudes at one time. Seen him knock out 7-footer. His whole family black belts.
And this is all starting to make sense now.
He got videos his dad beating his leg.
The Rockets front office had spent days in emergency meetings. General manager Raphael Stone, head coach Ime Udoka, and the ownership group weighed every option. Trade discussions were quietly explored, but the market was ice cold. Who would give up significant assets for a 37-year-old superstar who had just been exposed for trashing his own teammates and refused to apologize? The math was brutal. Durant was in the final year of a 4-year, $194 million deal he signed with the Brooklyn Nets, set to become an unrestricted free agent in 2026. He had re-signed with the Rockets on a veteran extension in October 2025, but the relationship was now irreparably damaged. According to team sources, the final decision came from ownership directly. The Rockets had built their entire post-James Harden rebuild around young players like Jabari Smith Jr. and Alperen Sengun. They had traded for Durant specifically to mentor these young stars. Instead, he had allegedly mocked them behind their backs in private group chats. The organization faced an impossible choice: keep Durant and risk permanently alienating their young core, or cut ties with a future Hall of Famer and absorb the financial and reputational consequences. They chose the young core. On February 19, 2026, the Houston Rockets issued a terse official statement. Kevin Durant had been waived, effective immediately. The move was unprecedented. A player of Durant's caliber, a 2-time champion, 2-time Finals MVP, 14-time All-Star, had never been unceremoniously cut loose in the middle of a season over a social media scandal. The financial implications were staggering. The Rockets ate the remainder of his massive salary. They forfeited any chance of recouping assets in a trade. But in their view, the cost of keeping him was even higher. The trust of every young player in their locker room, the culture they had spent years building, the very identity of the franchise. When reporters reached out to Durant's camp, there was no immediate comment, but sources described the mood as shell-shocked. Durant, who had controlled his own narrative for nearly 2 decades, had finally encountered a situation he couldn't tweet his way out of. The move sent shockwaves through the NBA. Players, analysts, and fans reacted with a mix of disbelief and grudging respect. The news of Kevin Durant's waiving spread through the NBA like wildfire. Social media crashed. Sports networks scrambled to fill airtime. Players from across the league weighed in with reactions ranging from stunned disbelief to quiet validation. LeBron James, reached after a Lakers practice, offered a measured response. "That's tough, man. KD is one of the greatest we've ever seen, but every situation is different. You gotta respect an organization making a decision they feel is best for their culture." Draymond Green, Durant's former teammate in Golden State, was characteristically blunt on his podcast. "Let me tell you something. When you sign up to be a leader, you sign up for the responsibility that comes with it. You can't be the veteran mentor and then go behind closed doors, or in this case, private group chats, and tear down the guys you're supposed to be building up. That's not leadership. That's the opposite of leadership." Jabari Smith Jr. and Alperen Sengun issued a joint statement through the team, carefully worded but unmistakably pointed. "We're focused on the future of this franchise and the brotherhood in this locker room. We wish Kevin well in his next chapter." The basketball world was divided. Some praised the Rockets for prioritizing culture over talent, for sending a message that no player is above accountability. Others questioned the wisdom of eating a massive contract and losing a superstar for nothing. Bill Simmons, reflecting on the unprecedented nature of the situation, offered a sobering take. "We've never seen anything like this. We've seen teams trade disgruntled stars, we've seen buyouts, But waiving a top 15 all-time player in the middle of a season over burner account texts, that's new ground. That's the line being drawn in the sand for the social media era. The Kevin Durant burner account saga of 2026 will be studied for decades as a cautionary tale. It wasn't just about a player talking trash online. It was about the collision between private frustration and public profession. It was about the trust that binds a team together and how quickly that trust can shatter when exposed to the light. Durant's non-apology, his refusal to own the mistake, his dismissal of the entire controversy as Twitter nonsense, proved more damaging than the messages themselves. In that moment, he showed his teammates that he wasn't willing to fight for their trust, and the Rockets' ownership, faced with that reality, chose the future over the past. Houston's young core, Smith, Sengun, and the rest, will now carry the weight of this season without the veteran leader who was supposed to guide them. Whether they rise or fall, one thing is certain: they learned a lesson about trust that no basketball clinic could ever teach. And Kevin Durant, he's now a free agent for the first time in his career, available to any team willing to take a chance on a 37-year-old superstar with a complicated history. The offers will come, the talent is undeniable, but the question that will follow him wherever he goes is the one he refused to answer in Houston: can you be trusted? Was the Rockets' decision to waive Kevin Durant justified, or did they overreact to an unverified scandal? Let us know in the comments. For more inside stories on the biggest controversies in sports, hit subscribe.